Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Blank Check here. BronyCon happened, it's been over for a little while, but I can finally talk about it now that I have a place to record. I'll start with an overview and a recap, then the back half of the video will be the merch haul. I definitely bought more than I expected, and there are now nearly 100 prints between my friend and I. When we get all our frames and command strips in, our townhouse is going to look like Hasbro just vomited all over the place. But first, BronyCon. This year was crazy for me. I thought I was busy last year. It was my first convention, I paraded through the vendor hall each day, and the list of guests was phenomenal, the highlights being all the main 6 voice actresses and M.A. Larson. So I went to a lot of panels. This year, I went to way fewer panels, but I was far busier. And that's because I spent much more time with people from the community and with you guys. Last time around, a handful of you guys recognized and came up to me. This time I made myself more obvious, and I ended up seeing dozens of you. I've never experienced something like that, and it was both amazing and terrifying. It was humbling and eye-opening to have that human connection, offering a sort of validation for my work that I've never had the pleasure to know. Validation both from the fans and from the content creators whose work I've covered. I'll dig into that in just a moment, but I want to say up front, thank you very much to everyone who came up. You made BronyCon an unforgettable weekend that I never imagined I'd have. Now let's cruise through a recap of the events. I arrived in Baltimore Thursday afternoon and checked into my hotel. I went out to grab my convention badge and battled the first round of LionCon. On the way, I ran into, or rather behind, perhaps the perfect representation of BronyCon. Anyway, got my badge. Those guys were slightly behind us along with Your Average Joe, if you're familiar with the Button Mash Play series that's gotten popular in the recent year. On the way back to the hotel, I actually came in behind a group consisting of Toon Critic Y2K and some of that analysis posse. I did not see the analysis guys too much, we tended to have pretty different schedules. I hung out with Saberspark and Laura for a little bit before heading out to the Bar Trot. On the walk down, which is slightly disconcerting 2 miles through Baltimore, my friend and I crossed paths with the Inverted Shadow. We were both on our way to meet the Lost Narrator, Magpie, Gudio Serenade, Pegasus Pitch, and their company. Awesome time there. I almost broke up a marriage by establishing a love triangle, but I figured I'd back off to let them have their fun. Coincidentally, while I was there, I came across Woodlore, who you should all go listen to, I'm serious. And we ended up having a last round of shots and walked back to the hotel after those other lightweights grabbed an Uber home. So, BronyCon proper. Friday morning, I was up and ready to go to the opening of the vendor hall. First, though, Starbucks, where I found Joe and Woodlore once again, which were both recurring themes this year. First thing I did was grab my commissioned badge from Skiggles so people could ID me better. And the merch haul is later, but I should note my pro cosplay. Bought this maroon baseball cap before the con and attached an IOU note which was given to me by Temujin last year. I also adopted this adorable little Fluttershy from a discount bin early on in the vendor hall and pinned her to the top of my hat. It was one of my most distinguishing features and she headbangs like a bro. After making my wallet cry for the first time that weekend, I made my way back to the Starbucks for the Lost Mag Power Hour, where I saw not only the same group from last night, but I met Ashley H and some Doritos for the first time, such as my long-lost identical twin turning Brony-Ease. I also finally made acquaintances with Scribbler, who was in a lovely cosplay. This was the first meetup where a lot of people came up to me, so I effectively mooched off Lost and Mag's get-together. Good times. Here, I also received a very cute drawing of Blank. Aww. In addition, I saw Razor reviews here for the first of several encounters. We had some good chats, and I believe here is where I met Dulcet Tone. The meeting continued past the start time of Kathy Wesluck's Fandom Reflections panel, which I was sad to miss. But I did head over to the CMC panel, which had all 3 of our Crusaders as well as Babs. It was nice, but Laura and I ducked out once the Q&A started, and I headed out to lunch and another sweep of the vendor hall. I think this was where I picked up that Fluttershy, actually. Friday evening, it hurts my heart to say, but I skipped out on the Nicolas Cage panel in favor of the SFM animation panel headed by Argo Damon, the Inverted Shadow, Warhorse, and others. I saw their newest animations there, and I look forward to all the people asking me to cover Argo's new Austreo anime intro parody like Doors 2 from last year. Sorry, I saw it. They had some great work, and at the end showed off animations from many other SFM artists that don't get the recognition they deserve. I'd really like to make a video about them in the future because they had awesome stuff and not enough views for their creativity and quality. Friday night, I went to the Realm of Discord panel, headed by the Bride and Daughter of Discord crew, Disney Fanatic, True Sailor Comet, The Wilstonator, and Katie Patterson, the former of which proposed just hours beforehand and the latter accepted. This was a convention of engagements and I loved it. We also had our friendly neighborhood reaction couple Brony Monster and ZD. They went over some of the details and inside baseball of making an audio drama, and showed a really cool clip from episode 7 of Daughter of Discord. I can't wait to see the finished product, which is apparently going to be very big. I did not go to the Anthology 6 premiere for a reason that should be obvious and hopefully will come to fruition by the end of this week, maybe? Instead, after lying down for a little while out of exhaustion, I went to Terribly Terrible Fanfiction After Midnight, hosted in the Hall of Chaos where alcohol was served and you had to be 21 or over. They read some hilariously bad, not safe for work pony fanfiction. Some of it included Sonic the Hedgehog. Diapers were an element, I will say no more. Saturday, I started off at 10 AM with Clash of the Animators, where 2D and 3D animators went head-to-head discussing the pros and cons of their tools and work. The return of Argo Damon and Adam the Amazing, as well as my second encounter with Pika Petey. I caught him on Friday and reenacted our pose from last year. It was also my first sighting of Minty Root, who you may know, and Purple Black Kiwi, who you may not. It was really interesting insight into programs out there and how the animators view them. Takeaways: Source Filmmaker is free, has a lot of open source content to download and utilize, and 3D camera control is a great tool. It also makes for the most hilarious glitches because things can stretch to infinity. 2D tools facilitate more visually diverse and malleable content though. But in the end, they're both pretty awesome and can be used to create amazing art in the right hands. At some point, I finally met Nowacking, which totally made my day. She's so cool. In the afternoon, we had the Pinky Tales panel with Mag, Lost, Scribbler, Goody, Pitch, and the other narrator guy who I'm sorry to have forgotten. Earlier on, by releasing the first Pinky Tales reaction just before the con started, I strategically evaded Magpie's wrath, but now have to finish the series or she will get me. It was a really busy panel, the line was insane. I got there late and just waited for the entire crowd to funnel in. It wrapped back around the hallway forever. They had audience members reenact scenes from the episodes, most of which I did not know, but it was a lot of fun to watch. There was this one little girl in a Pinky cosplay who totally nailed her lines. I followed them over to the Fan VA meet and greet, which was scheduled right afterward. I met Pinky Rose for the first time, and she is just as cheery and energetic as you would expect, as well as Eudakiladai of the My Little Pony Sims series on YouTube. As a reactor, there's this moment when you see recognition from a content creator's eyes as they look at you. You brace yourself for whatever comes next. And this was one of so many extremely pleasant greetings that made the weekend so amazing for me. All these people seeing me, recognizing me, being totally chill, even going so far as to thank me in many cases. It put things into a slightly different perspective, helped me rejuvenate my energy here into my channel. I'm just so grateful I could get along with all these people whose work I love and who I respect for what they do. Anyway, BronyCon. Coincidentally, the Reactor meetup was in basically the same location right afterward. So I got together with Epic V, Brony Monster and ZD, Apple Geek, Double Play, Potter Brony, Conan, Loquacious. There were a lot of us. After that, I checked out the Hooves Line panel where the Bronies React guys showed off their improv skills. It was pretty fun, and a highlight was the Helping Hands skit, where Saber played Rarity, Gabe played Sweetie Belle, and Racebest played Rarity's arms, while Big Sis taught Little Sis how to apply makeup. Saber had never been more beautiful in his life. I went out to eat Chipotle and got caught in the rain, and coincidentally, it just started raining right now as I'm recording this. Then I headed over to Bronypalooza to see Black Griffin and Michelle Krieber's set. Just like last year, these two have an awesome stage presence, and they were joined by the Corlettes for some extra drums and vocals. Then I headed over to another hotel to have drinks with Lost, Goody, Ashley, Epic V, and many others. This was the most inebriated I got at the convention. But it was also one of the best moments because we got into some real discussion about YouTube and the fandom and life in general. You don't usually see this side of the creators you watch. Some put their lives out in the open plain as day, but it's often edited for the purposes of entertainment or pacing. But talking face to face over drinks paints a very different and interesting picture, and it makes me wish I could see these people and others whose work I enjoy more often. From there, with a slightly wobbly gait, I headed back to Bronypalooza to catch the Saturday night closer Alex S., who really rocked the house. It was a ton of fun. Fluttershy was banging away on top of my head, phrasing, and I found myself in the perfect position to see the silhouette of my head and the plush bobbing in the corner of the screen on stage every third camera transition. Sunday, aside from cleaning house at the vendor hall for last-minute sales, I attended the LGBTQ in the fandom panel headed by Lost, Mag, Minty Root, and Purple Black Kiwi. It was a much more personal atmosphere than the other panels, much more open and made to be accepting for the audience. I know Lost was still feeling it from the previous night, but she did an awesome job keeping the pace. Afterward, I hung around outside for a short time and said my goodbyes to that group before taking off myself. That was BronyCon in a very extended nutshell. Before we get to the merch haul, I have not mentioned one of the best parts. So last year, you may have seen a picture of my good fortune in coming across a fellow with a very interesting Flutterbat docky. This year, they were much more apparent. You could see multiple vendors just casually hanging them up for purchase, and I found several people walking around with the whole shebang, pillows ready to go. So I made it my purpose to take a picture with permission every time one was spotted in the open. I nabbed 5 out of 6. There was one derpy pillow whose owner made it into the elevator before I could make my move. But 5's pretty good. I got a Sunset, a Daring Do in the vein of Stranger Than Fanfiction, who was being held by a fellow in appropriate Daring Do cosplay, so it totally worked. A confident Blackjack, an OC with a precariously positioned Illuminati symbol during Bronypalooza, and a Starlight from the Loyal Brony who is way more adorable than she has any right to be. BronyCon's pretty cool, guys. Time for the merch. I believe I have fewer items this time compared to last year, but I spent more money by a little bit because of a few pricey decisions. These first two things kind of qualify, kind of don't. The one on the right is my commissioned badge from Skiggles that I bought before the con and picked up on the Friday of. She's a great artist, I love what she did here, and she got the eyebrow wiggle perfect. On the left is a Perler of Blank Check from Temujin, who is the awesome dude who gave me the IOU patch last year. So a special thanks to both of them. Next is the most expensive item I procured at BronyCon. This is Fluttershy from Pyro Plush. She has the cutest expression, and she currently sits on my desk and watches me sleep. It's adorable and creepy. But it is a great design, I love how she looks, and she is very solidly put together. She stands upright, and she has a very thick neck. That's right, I bought a thick Fluttershy at BronyCon. All my dreams have come true. And Pyro Plush sold out pretty quickly. She undercut the prices of other plushes of similar quality by a good margin. Kudos for that, my wallet thanks you. Next, my friend actually gave me this one as a gift. It is a wonderful clay model from Dorkspork of Fluttershy and Angel Bunny. Yellow Horse is so adorable and protective with her wing outstretched over her little bunny. Continuing with the Fluttershy train, I mentioned before the good old headbanging Fluttershy. I got that from Red Pony Plush. She was in the discount bin. She was an outcast Fluttershy. I had to adopt her, and she ended up being one of my best purchases. I went back the next day, and Red Pony had almost sold out all of their Fallout Equestria stuff. I managed to pick up the very last Velvet Remedy and a Calamity along with her. I had been eyeing the Velvet from the beginning, and I'm glad I got the 2 little lovebirds. To conclude our plush section on a bittersweet note, this was the last BronyCon for Cutie Corral. A bit sad to hear, but ultimately good for me because they were selling their plushes for 50% off. I had been looking for a good Starlight plush because I have a Trixie already, and I needed the 2 to be together. And the options were surprisingly limited compared to the other main characters. But in the end, Cutie Corral came through, and now the bickering old couple is finally together. Aside from that, they had a certain plush that I had been really wanting to buy last year but never did. And that is this wonderful cat-dog conglomeration of Lyrabon from Do Princesses Dream of Magic Sheep. I got this for 2 reasons. 1, it was half off, that's a good price. And 2, this was the Convention of Engagements. It is my #1 ship, and my #1 fandom ship was at the convention. I mentioned before that I went drinking with them, and on Sunday I had them sign this Lyrabon plush because I thought it was just poetic. And all I had to do was sell my soul to Magpie Pony. That's fine. Jumping from plush to glass, I doubled down with a friend over at Villainesque's booth. He got himself a Daybreaker glass, I got myself a Flutterbat. I know, how surprising. I returned to Stars and Spikes this year. Last time around I bought a Derpy hand towel, a Derpy Cutie Mark Bubbles hand towel. This time around I bought a Great and Powerful hand towel and a Glim Glam bath towel because I really like this ship, guys, have you noticed? I also returned to the Brony Thank You Fund where I bought a charity pin and charity calendar. The theme this time was Ponies Through Time. Pony parodies of artwork across the ages. It's really cool. I made a visit to Pirate Dash. He has a really cool Tumblr blog. I found him through Captain Horse way back when. And I wanted to give him some money, so I bought pins. If you are seeing a trend in my purchases this year, it's just in your head, I assure you. I went over to My Little Ties where I bought magnets, because ICP, yo. But they were really cute, and the Fluttershy one in particular has the most precious facial expression. Then over at I'm sorry. My friend bought a blanket of his final pony picture, this insanely detailed image consisting of numerous connected, detailed scenes. It is an achievement, but we also got some mugs with it, a matching Luna and Celestia. And they're like half mine, so I'm counting it. Over at Kawaii Pony, whose art is very appropriate for the name, I purchased myself an adorable Flutterbat wall scroll. She's so cute and her eyes are so big and she loves her apple so much. And while we're on wall scrolls, I'll mention over at Ardale's booth, we picked up this cool image of Link Pony and Epona Pony. Is she his pet? Can she speak? I'm really confused. I have many questions. Alright, that's all the non-print stuff. Let's get to some art. The Traveling Artist Collective group had an exclusive set from Hyoshiru of Daybreaker and Nightmare Moon. They go really well together, and I bought them in metallic. They look awesome. On the topic of the Corrupted Sisters, Valkron had a chibi version. Aww, who's an adorable little tyrant? You are! Yes, you are. Over at Boiler, I already have 4 prints from the guy, and that Blackjack Docky from earlier was his design. I saw this epic fantasy movie poster style Fallout Equestria print, and I needed it. He is so reliable for the Fallout stuff, I'm very grateful. Jada Jinx, who you may remember as the designer for the Draconiquist Mirage, is an artist who I was sad to not have any prints from, and this year I made that correction. They are 2 images I've loved for a long time. This Flutterbat is amazing, and the giant Flufflepuff My Neighbor Totoro parody is too good to pass up. If you don't know the reference, you should fix that. Bob Dude had this really awesome autumn-themed Fluttershy picture. She is so content nestled up in her tree, and I love the warm coloration. Speaking of scenic Yellow Pegasus images, my friend grabbed me from across the vendor hall to show me this Silent Wolf piece. And I'm glad he did because I love it. The colors, her wings are so nice, and the duck. The duck is so cute. Plus really nice reflections in the water. Next, my goodness, I got a lot of Fluttershy, didn't I? Spirit of the Wolf had this really cool Druid Fluttershy piece. Don't cross her, she will mess you up with that staff. And this one's not mine, my friend bought it, but I wanted to mention this really amazing Bright Mac and Pear Butter piece. That episode really is amazing. Now for some Celestia action, I grabbed 2 pieces by Silpho. The first, teacher and student walking out around Canterlot, and the second, mentor leading student into some epic battle that I'm sure I would love to see animated. Next, I am a sucker for really cheap misprints. And Vixie had a box of accidentally outstretched $1 prints, so I bought 3. I'm pretty sure I only bought them for this video, but Sheriff Applejack, Captain Twilight, and Assassin Luna are all pretty cool, especially when they're in the right size. Almost at the end, my smallest prints came from late customer. I grabbed a 5x7 of the princesses and Spike sitting around the TV watching some good old-fashioned wrestling. I have framed it underneath the television in the living room for thematic purposes. More importantly though, Fluttershy is in a sweater, and it's too big for her little hoovesies to poke out of. They don't normally wear clothes, but it has her cutie mark, so it was made just for her. Who made it? Why is it the wrong size? Why is she so cute? I have so many questions. Anyway, last print, but certainly not least, this is one of the most cherished things I brought back from BronyCon. On Saturday, Ashley H found me in the vendor hall and gave me this framed picture of all the Remembrance crew, all those Doritos, and me right in the middle. The art is from Nick from Mindless Sketching. I want to thank you so much for that. They got it signed by everyone who was at the convention who has played a part in Remembrance. And it was such an amazing, heartfelt gift. I never would have expected something so complex. Huge thanks to Ashley, to Nick, to everyone who was there, and to all the cast in general. I'm so grateful for the gift and for everything it represents. This feeds back into the things I mentioned earlier in the video about the creators, and how this BronyCon meant so much to me in a way I did not expect. Big thanks once again to everyone who was there who made this weekend one to remember. And of course that includes all you guys who came up to me. Hopefully I can see you again, and maybe even more of you next year. If not, if you're too far away, if you can't afford it, thank you for just being part of this channel. This video got very long, so until next time, oh my god, I forgot about Gary! I got a Gary. Everyone loves Gary. Gary is the best princess.